a doctorate in laser physics from University of Pune. He is a director in a product design development and system integration company named Photonic Technologies LLP. Engaged in the field of laser, electro-optic, renewable energy, project management, and technology education. I met Dr. Vinay sometime in 1993 at Pune University. That time he was pursuing for his PhD in lasers. And in Philips, we had a coherent laser, 50 watt for trimming resistors. And while maintenance, the laser tube broke, which was a 1 meter long 50 watt laser tube. And the tube was not available because it was in proliferation and import was very difficult. So that time, Vinay came to my rescue and he made that 50 watt laser tube successfully. And later we made a lot of tubes and used in our laser system. So we have such a great practicing PhD, rather I can say practicing engineer in the having PhD to do the jobs. Of course, those days he made a lot of lasers for education and industrial applications. But the success was our 50 watt laser tube. Now he is into solar and doing a lot of activities. I have already shared with you his biodata. So without spending much time, I will request Dr. Vinay Hasabnis to start his presentation. Thank you, and over to you, Dr. Vinay.
Thank you, Mr. Rabade, and welcome, friends. Welcome all of you. First, let me thank Mr. Rabade for giving me this opportunity to share my experience, views on your forum. And with this, I'll just start off with my lecture. So primarily, I would be, my major part of my lecture will be focused on opportunities in renewable energy with a special focus on solar energy. And to start with, I'll just brief you the background, how these opportunities emerged in the last decade. So, primarily, the importance of energy is especially been mentioned by oil expert Mike Rupert, who says that for every calorie of energy, the industrial world spends almost 10 calories of energy in terms of oil, gas, etc., and which is primarily invested in fertilizer, pesticides, packaging, transporting, and running farm equipment. So this is just to give an example that even in agricultural sector, this much of energy is been spent, expended. And likewise, energy is required in every sector. And that's how primarily there is a need to secure this energy with a sustainable source so that you need not have to bother much on the security part of it. Now, what is energy security? When I say energy security, it should have a resource for supply. Then the supply can be from fossil fuel or renewable energy. Then it should be sufficient. Adequate quantity of fuel or adequate quantity of resources should be there. Then surety. Then at any given point of time, you have to have a surety that the energy will be made available. Otherwise, it's of no use. Even if the energy is there, if it is not, if you don't access it, it's of no use. Then it has to have a durable resource. The source should be durable. Otherwise, if it gets extinguished, again, it's of no use. And then it should sustain. It should have limited damage to the environment while generating the source. Then it should be easily available. In other words, I would summarize that its availability should be in an easy way. Then it should be easily accessible. Then affordability is one of the major criteria for energy. The energy should be available at the reasonable price. And of course, the source of energy should have a broad acceptance. So primarily this energy security has got a background of all these things. Now, if you look at our dependence, primarily we are dependent on energy from transportation to communication, then from national security to health services. And in the current scenario, the crude oil forms the largest form of source of energy. And world's largest dependent in the current scenario is on the crude oil. Whereas the supply of oil is limited to very few countries. And this disruption in oil supply has been experienced by us many times whenever there is a political or economic crisis. It has hit oil market heavily. The first energy crisis happened in 1973, wherein where the world got basically a special attention towards finding out the various other sources to countercheck this dependence on oil. And even if you look at the latest Ukraine-Russia war, the oil prices have again zoomed. So these are the primarily various energy. As long as we are dependent on only one source of energy, these are going to be the threats. And that's how basically the overall thinking started to find out the other resources, especially in the renewable sector. Now, if you look at the energy status in India, it's and as compared to the world, even though we are fifth largest energy consumer in the world, the per capita electricity consumption, if you look at India's per capita consumption is almost 975 kilowatt hour per year. Whereas if you look at developed country like US, it is almost 12,000 kilowatt hours per year. China, our nearest neighbor, has almost got a per capita consumption of 5,300, whereas the world average is around 3,300. Now, if you look at the developed countries, primarily the energy consumption is related to the development of that particular country. You take all developed countries, their energy consumption is, per capita energy consumption is beyond 10,000 kilowatt hours per hour. The point being, since our per capita energy consumption is so low, there is a huge scope in the energy sector to grow. The growth is pretty high, is going to be pretty high. Even in the today's scenario, we are finding almost 50% of shortage in the energy generation. And the current installed capacity in India is about 4 lakh megawatts. And the energy generation is about 1300 terawatt hours. And this particular demand is going to reach to almost 8 lakh megawatts by 2030 to 2040. And that means we will have to add up at least 25,000 megawatt per year to match this demand. Obviously, India has got a lot of environmental concerns that even though, we are almost third largest emitter of carbon emission behind China and US. And especially when it comes to the contribution, almost 38% of the emissions comes from the power sector. So that's with this background, basically, there was a thought process started to find out the ways to minimize this carbon footprint and find out the various sustainable energy sources. Now, how do we grow to be sustainable? That is the big question. Now, if you want to go down onto the low carbon footprint, obviously the sources available and options available are like solar energy is one of them. Wind energy is there, then hydrogen and fuel cell. Hydro is again a renewable, biofuels are there. Thermal and nuclear have got a limited scope because already world is moving towards renewable energy sources. Now, obviously, since all these renewable energy sources in the current scenario have certain, I would say, thermal has a certain age over in terms of investment and other things. Most of the funding is going in the investment and research and policy drafting for this to promote these renewable energy sources. Now, obviously, the major question comes to our mind is why solar then? What is so great about solar? If you look at the renewable energy sources, right from starting from solar, wind, biofuels, hydrogen, so why major opportunities coming in solar? If you look at the solar PV development in the past 30, 40 years, it has become most mature technology. I mean, it's a proven technology. The development started way back in 1950s. And in the at if you look at today's scenario, solar is the most mature and proven technology. Then India fortunately has got abundant solar radiation. It is one of the best in the world. Almost we get 300 clear sunny days in India. So we are blessed with very good solar insolation. Then solar plants are stationary. So there are no moving parts in the solar plant. That is the reason there is no wear and tear resistance and there is less downtime in solar plants. The biggest and most interesting aspect of solar is it is scalable right from kilowatt to megawatt. For example, if I have a small plant of say kilowatt scale, and if I want to scale it up, you can proportionately scale it up to megawatt scale. So that capacities can be added proportionately. Then it is obviously non-polluting, localized, low cost of generation. This solar around 2016, it has reached grid parity. When I say grid parity, that means whatever cost of grid based on thermal nuclear, the price tariff is matched with the solar. And in current scenarios, the solar is almost half the price to that of grid generated on thermal and nuclear. So it is now cheaper than grid. And of course, it has got low energy payback period. When I say energy payback period, that means whenever we put up energy to create the source, that energy versus how much energy it generates. So that depends. So that gives you the energy payback. For example, suppose I am putting say 100 kilowatt hours of energy to create an energy source, and if it delivers say 1000 kilowatt hours energy during its lifespan, that means the energy payback period, lifespan of 10 years, energy payback period is 1 year, and it has got low gestation period. For example, suppose if you go for a 100 megawatt scale solar project, it can be installed within a span of 9 to 12 months. If equivalent plant needs to be put up in the hydel or thermal, it takes at least 4 to 5 years to basically commission. So these are the major advantages of solar energy. Now, what are the business opportunities? Now, business opportunities are immense. Like to start with, the most suitable business opportunity in solar is to be a system integrator. See, so solar system is primarily customized and it can be installed based on the customer's requirement. So that is one of the best and its scalability basically gives us that much suitability for the application. So system integrator primarily collects all the components like PV modules, inverters, balance of system, and based on the requirement of the customer, the system integrator integrates the system and commissions it. So as far as capital is concerned, the capital is extremely low. So any entrepreneur can get into this system integrator business. It could be a rooftop, it could be ground mount. Now, if you look at India's target, we have targeted almost 500 gigawatt in the next 10 years. Now, even if we consider 50% of it, that means 250 gigawatt, that means in the next 10 years, we have to add up at least 50,000 megawatts of solar plants every year in India. Now, 1 megawatt, to set up 1 megawatt plant, normally one requires almost 10 to 15,000 man hours. So you can imagine the kind of employment it is going to generate, the kind of opportunities it has. Obviously, a lot of big time EPC player will come in picture, but obviously they will have to again engage commissioning people to install those projects. So that is one very big opportunity is at the doorstep. The second one, if you are a pure investor in that case, you can be a solar developer, solar power developer. When I said solar power developer, what it means is you are setting up a plant and then you are selling the power to the respective the client. So you are developing the power as in a capacity of developer, you are setting up the plant and you are selling the power. So there also there are immense opportunities. So that is one of the sector. Then the third opportunity is balance of system manufacturing. See, for inverter and solar modules need to be manufactured on the very large scale. So at MSME level, it is, I would not advise to get into that manufacturing, but the balancer systems like module mounting structures, the combiner boxes, and other related accessories can be manufactured because they will be required at this manufacturing will be required at the local level so that you can reduce the logistic costs and it will be made available at the reasonable price. So balance of systems manufacturing is one of area which can be tapped. Then as far as module manufacturing is concerned, for small and different application, it can be customized. I mean, you buy solar cells, integrate the module as per the customer's requirement. It could be anything. It could be a fancy atom. It could be solar street light. It could be solar uh, lamp. It could be any application. So for wherever there is a customization, that is also provides a very good opportunity for PV manufacturing. Now, solar PV based products, especially, see the specific aim of, or rather specific advantage of solar is it can be a distributed source of energy. Now, in India, a lot of areas there where there is a, I mean, they are placed in the remote areas and there is no access to the power. So there you can provide various solar PV based products like ATM machine, fridge, water pumps, water purifiers. These are the small gadgets which can be basically fabricated, integrated, and put up in those areas. And then I will come separately to this microgrid for rural electrification and EV charging. So primarily when I was discussing about these products, especially for primary health center, these fridges are required. Then ATM machines, these ATM machines have been developed in southern India by a new entrant entrepreneur, and he was so successful. He tied up with various nationalized banks, and he sold these ATM machines like anything. So primarily, all you need to have is a come up with an out-of-box idea. Then again, this water purifier is something because now Indian government has focused. They have a separate focus on the water supply, pure water supply to the village level. So that can also be tapped. Then of course, solar water pump is one of the application which can be used in a wide variety of areas, like from agro to the residence. Now, when I come to the rural electrification, see, India still has got almost 50,000 villages which are yet to be electrified. I mean, they are very small wadis and bastis, you can say about 10, 15, 20 residential residences. So what is it that stops those things from electrification? See, the problem is, it is not the cost of power that matters. It is the cost of laying down the grid line up to that village. The average cost of laying down the grid line to that village costs almost 12 rupees a kilowatt hour. So you can imagine. So the actual cost of energy delivered there would come to around 16 rupees to 17 rupees per kilowatt hour. Even though the basic cost is say 3 rupees or 4 rupees, since the cost of grid line would be 12 rupees, the total cost at the delivery point becomes almost 16 to 17 rupees a kilowatt hour. As against, if you look at the solar energy, if you put up a standalone solar power plant with a battery backup, and if you start distributing the power in those small villages, that will cost almost 7 to 9 rupees a kilowatt hour. So that is a distinct advantage. Then benefits like no transmission or theft losses because you are not laying any transmission lines. And also there is no power outage. So now how it works, primarily you have a small solar power plant, maybe of 25, 50, 100 kilowatts. Then during daytime, the power is generated and it's stored into the batteries. Then the inverter converts it from DC to AC, and a small microgrid. You can call it as smart because a small microgrid is distributed amongst all the residences with a prepaid meters. This particular scheme was very much successful in South Africa. And the biggest thing I'll tell you, the experience there. Once the fellow gets acclimatized to the kind of light during the night hours, he keeps his payment ready to again subscribe for this energy. So they have put up all across the prepaid meters, and it has been a very good successful story in especially South Africa. So this is also, I mean, Indian government has specifically allotted certain amounts of funding for rural electrification with a local microgrid. I call it microgrid because it caters to almost 50-100 residences. Now, I will touch base one more opportunity. Prior to that, there is one more thing that has come up recently, that is the floating solar opportunity. Now, what is floating solar? See, India has got most of the land, agricultural land, and putting a solar farm onto an agricultural farm is a crime. That is number one. Day by day, getting an land to set up the solar plant is becoming very difficult and expensive. So this floating solar thing has started way back about 5 years back, wherein you are putting up the floats onto a water body surface. The modules are mounted onto the floats. The float block is anchored to the bottom of the water body, and the power is basically generated and fed into the grid. So if you look at the current scenario in the last 1.5 years, almost SECI, the main body of renewable energy, has come up with 2000 megawatts of floating solar tenders. And now when it comes to the business opportunity, to manufacture these floats is one of the, can be a very good opportunity to get into. All you need to do is injection molding machines and HDP granules, and you just start manufacturing these floats. The floats are required in huge quantities. So that is also, then anchoring mooring is one more activity which can be basically looked into. And now in the next 10 years, I was just going through one report by Terry. They are saying that India has got a potential of almost 250 gigawatt on water body surface. So just imagine the kind of potential it is having. And even if you look at the world over scenario, this floating solar is picking up very fast. So that is also one of the good opportunity to get in. Now coming back to the second opportunity, which is EV charging. See, India has targeted about in the next 10 years, almost 20 to 25% of their vehicles will go on EV. And to cater the charging of these vehicles, India is planning to set up almost 1 lakh main big charging stations all across in the next 5 years. Now, of course, to cater this charging, we will require an additional energy generation of almost 20 billion kilowatt hours a year. That means this is an additional requirement that will come up, because you will go down on the oil import, but obviously it needs to be compensated by electricity. Now, immediately, if you want to generate this energy, again, solar becomes a very good option, because for installation and commissioning a solar plant, you require hardly few months. So this electrical energy generation again needs to be taken care of by and large by solar. Now the investment which is envisaged in the next 5 years is to the tune of almost 12 billion USD. I mean, these are the realistic figures and most conservative figures, so you can imagine. Now, what are the opportunities in design, manufacturing, and I mean, especially in EV area? So the opportunity could be in designing a charging station. So those who come with the electrical electronics hardware background and software background, they can get into design. The hardware fellow, they can get into manufacturing. And there is one more area where you will require an installation and maintenance team also. So that comes under services. So design, manufacturing, and services, all three sectors can be seen as a very good opportunity. I'll give you one classic example. Now, in most of the metropolitan cities, the governing bodies are making it compulsory to set up at least 1 to 2 charging stations per society. So you can imagine it is going to have the great effect in terms of on the supply of charging. Apart from these, 1 lakh charging stations are going to be installed onto the main roads. Whereas especially in the metros, all the societies are going to have a small chargers, not at the fast chargers, but you can see the kind of opportunity it will throw. So that is also one of the interesting area one should think of getting in, because still there are hardly few manufacturers when it comes to small charge controllers, charging stations. This can be this is the scenario in the current Europe and US, but nonetheless, the day is not too far that we will also witness the same scenario in India. If, in fact, yesterday only I saw news in Gurgaon, India's first largest charging station was commissioned, wherein it will cater to charge almost 1,000 cars in a day. So it has got slow chargers, fast chargers, everything all included. So that is first big charging station was commissioned yesterday. Now, energy storage devices is one more opportunity that is again related to renewable energy and more or less related to solar. So what is energy storage? Primarily, whenever you are generating excess energy, you need to store it and use it whenever you need it. So what could be the applications for this energy storage? Normally, the storage, I'll elaborately come to one by one, but nonetheless, to manage the grid, you need, that means the load and supply management, you need an energy storage device. Then scheduling of power of non-firm power plants. When I say non-firm, what is it? See, solar or wind, they are called non-firm because you don't have any control over its generation. Wherever there is a control over generation, you call them as a firm sources of power. So whenever you are having a non-firm power plants, you need to make it, if you want to schedule the power, you need a compensatory device which can be either injected or charged depending upon the requirement. So additional power is required for this plant. It can be injected with the help of the energy storage device, and you get a firm power. That means you can predict the power. Then of course, mobile charging station is also one of the area where this will come, because now recently I again heard a news that in Bombay Pune Expressway, there is company called e-mobility. They are going to provide mobile charging. For example, if you are running short of charging, you just call up the vehicle will come and charge your vehicle. So that mobile charging stations will be required, this energy storage. Then of course, standalone localized power supply. That means currently the standalone localized power supply is done by DG sets. With the current development in battery sector, I would not be surprised that this power will be much more cheaper than DG set, and at the same time much more smaller than the DG set. The way the things are going in this sector, development of this sector. Now, this is one more interesting thing, especially this whenever it comes to a device manufacturing. Flywheel, apart from batteries, there are some out-of-box concepts are coming up in energy storage, like this flywheel. If you look at this flywheel is earlier it used to be of steel or iron, but a French company has come up with a pre-stressed concrete cylinder. So that has reduced the cost. At the same time, since the bearings are having a magnetic thrust bearing, which reduces the friction. So what happens? How does it works? Primarily, whenever there is an excess energy, this energy accelerates the flywheel. So, and whenever you are requiring the power with the deceleration, alternators is run. and the power is generated and given to you. Now, this particular company has come up with a model wherein you can store 10 kilowatt hours of energy, right from 10 kilowatt hours to megawatt hours of energy, and they are in practice in especially in South Africa. So this is one of the out of box idea that is been commercialized. Then I'll just show you one more out of box idea. It's a video of 1.5 minutes, but you will get an idea how people can think.
Hi, it's Gary with Mercy Ships. I'm here on the border between Ukraine and Romania.
So this is called energy vault.
We can't see anything.
No audio.
As well, there is no audio.
No video or no audio.
Can you see the audio? I mean video?
No, sir.
Yes, I can see.
No.
Anyway, so
You have slow internet.
We can see audio and video both.
Oh, then problem may be at our end.
तुमच्याकडे दिसत नाहीये का रबडे सर?
नाही काही दिसत नाही.
अच्छा, कारण माझ्याकडे दोन्ही दिसते.
ऑडिओ पण येत नाही, नथिंग.
हा, माझ्या एंडला पण नाही येत आहे.
You can retry or skip.
ऑडिओ येत आहे, व्हिडिओ चालू नाही.
No, nothing. Both are not visible. Either you can retry or skip.
Re-log in करा.
Audio coming, but no video.
म्युझिक ऐकायला येत आहे फक्त म्युझिक.
हा, म्युझिक येते. ते कुठनं येते म्हणजे म्युझिक कोणाला येते?
I think it is not working, so you can skip and go for the next slide.
yes, I'm going for the next slide. I'm just trying to locate the slideshow. What has that? So the idea of this energy storage device is something like this, that you have a pile of concrete blocks. So whenever you are generating excess energy, you just lift up those concrete blocks to the top and then drop it down and run the turbine. So this idea was floated about 3 to 4 years back, and even a person like me who is working in energy field for the last almost 10 years, I was zapped with the idea and I thought that it won't be workable. And you will not believe, this particular company has got a funding of almost 1 billion USD last month to develop this energy storage vault. They call it vault. Now, hydrogen is one more area where nowadays a lot of things are happening. So what is hydrogen? Hydrogen is primarily looked at as a medium to store the energy. So what is so great about hydrogen? So hydrogen is generated with the electrolysis. So again, the same principle, whenever if you have a cheap source of energy or you have an excess energy, create hydrogen and with the help of electrolysis. And this hydrogen can eventually be again re-electrified with the help of fuel cell. Now the round trip efficiency, that means converting it to the hydrogen and again converting it back to the electricity. Today it is a bit low, but as far as energy storage or power density is concerned, hydrogen can store enormous amount of energy uh, when it comes to the power density as compared to the batteries or pumped hydro or various compressed air storages. These applications are large scale energy storage applications. But when it comes to the energy density, hydrogen basically can store enormous amount of energy. So that is the reason more focus was again on hydrogen. Now, this is an interesting, again, out of box idea, which I came across with when I was interacting with a Russian entrepreneur. So he got a very good, clever idea. Like in any city nowadays, you will find a lot of mobile towers. Now, all these cell towers are having a battery backup. For example, about 50 to 100 kilowatt hours of battery is always there to support the as a power backup. So what he has done with IoE and IoT platform, he integrated all these battery packs, and he developed such a system that, suppose, take an example of Pune. If Pune is having say 500 cell towers, that means 500 multiplied by 100 kilowatt hours, that means it is 5 megawatt hour storage of power at any point of time. Now, if I basically integrated all this with the IoT platform, if there is a requirement of 1 megawatt hour of energy, it will be pumped at the respective location into the grid. So that will have reduction in power transmission losses. So at the local level, if there is a reduction in, there is a droppage in or excess power is required, obviously immediately that will be catered at the local level. So primarily he is calling it a virtual power plant of any size. Just imagine if this is only, if it is limited to Pune city, it can be limited to a country also. This is a future of you can say energy where it can lead to. People are coming up with various smart solutions to cater the energy requirement, and this is again an out of box idea. And if you really come up with out of box ideas, there is virtually there is zero competition, and it will give you immense opportunities in the energy sector. Now, in the energy storage devices, the opportunity can be in customized battery power packs. Now, lithium, if you look at lithium ion cell, they come up with a cell, a 1.5, 1.8 volt cell, and with certain current capacity. Now, if I require a specific ampere hour and specific voltage, integration of this lithium ion cell can be one good business opportunity. Then customized power supply solutions. With the energy storage devices and coupled with solar plant, you can come up with a customized power solutions. Then of course, battery management system. Since this battery is of different voltage and customized power current requirement, you need to manage the charging and discharging. So that could be a smart battery management system. And of course, for a software and hardware electronic engineer, there are a lot of IoT and IoE platforms that can be created to cater all these requirements. So these are the opportunities that can be seen, especially in renewable energy sector with solar being very fast growing. I have restricted my focus on solar, but nonetheless, in the days to come, lot of renewable energy sources will be developed. Just like I mentioned, wind is again a promising field. Now, even with the wind, people are developing floating windmills, which will be put up into an offshore area. So you will not require even the foundation for that particular windmill. And windmill, I'm just briefing you idea. Windmill started with a capacity of 150 to 250 kilowatt. And now people are thinking of developing 15 megawatt to 20 megawatt capacity windmill. So point being, there are enormous opportunities in the renewable energy sector. You can tap them. There is, I mean, sky is the limit to tap all these opportunities. Thank you.
Thank you, Vinay, for wonderful presentation, and you have covered in 40 minutes most of the aspects of solar energy harnessing. I must thank you on behalf of Tech Forum. Now we will keep the session open for question and answer. Friends, please identify yourself and then ask the question. Meantime, Vinay, you can take questions if they have in the chat box.
Sure.
So please shoot out those who want to.
Sir, this is Rajarajan from Tamil Nadu.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Sir, am I audible?
Yeah, very much.
Yeah, you are audible, but you are not visible. Switch on the lamp in front of you.
No, it's okay.
Sir,
Yeah.
Please.
actually, I have shared the plan regarding the blockchain and IoT powered smart microgrid, sir.
Right.
Our MNRE has a plan to deploy the 10,000 smart microgrid across the India,
Right.
especially for the rural electrification,
Right.
by automating the transfer of power from energy surplus cell to energy deficit, sir.
Right. Can
Hello?
you come again?
Yeah.
I lost your
Yeah.
last question.
Have you installed any of such power grid, micro power grid anywhere
Right
in
now, no.
Tamil Nadu?
Sir, our
Probably
MNRE, Ministry of New Renewable Energy Department has a mission to deploy the 10,000 smart microgrids across the India.
Yeah. Once you are installed, now we can have a separate presentation when they will be installed and success stories can be
Rajaram,
shared.
now you can see that you yourself are saying almost 10,000 microgrids. So you can imagine the kind of opportunities it will throw to the young entrepreneurs, because ultimately these installations have to be done by someone, right?
Sir, the government has the responsibility. Our plan is we are facilitating the platform, the
Correct.
model-based deep reinforcement. Hello, sir.
Yeah.
Model-based deep reinforcement learning mechanism to
Correct.
empower the optimal policy between the smart microgrids.
Correct.
So that is our plot. And this peer-to-peer energy transaction is not limited only to the microgrid. It will be applicable to the energy harvesting frameworks in the smart manufacturing systems,
Right.
and grid-to-vehicle platform also.
True.
So in terms of energy harvesting framework, MEC powered microgrid networks, because multi-access edge computing is inevitable in terms of smart manufacturing systems.
Absolutely.
So that multi-access edge computing should be empowered by smart microgrid, because MPC, multi-access edge computing network can't get a power from centralized grid. It need to be empowered by the microgrid only. So the idea number 2 is devising the MEC powered microgrid networks.
True.
So I need
Okay.
a support for the same.
Sure. We'll provide.
Sure. Point well taken. Next question.
सर मी मेहता बोलू का?
बोला.
Sir, shall I continue or anybody else in the queue?
नमस्कार विनय सर.
हा, नमस्कार. बोला.
तर माझा एक स्पेसिफिक आता मी एका कॉलेजमध्ये काम करतो, तिथं 325 किलोवॅटची सोलर सिस्टीम बसवलेली आहे ऑलरेडी.
ओके.
आणि आता आमच्या डायरेक्टरांचं असं म्हणणं आहे की आपण आता आमची जी सँक्शन कॅपॅसिटी ती ऑलरेडी आता फुल झालेली आहे.
ओके.
आता आम्हाला जर एक्स्ट्रा तिथं जर जनरेट करायची असली सोलर प्लांट इंडिपेंडंट बसून, तर ते अलाउड आहे का आताच्या एमएसए? कोणी म्हणतात अलाउड नाहीये, कोणी म्हणतात अलाउड आहे.
त्यात दोन प्रकार आहेत. तुम्ही जर का नेट मीटरच्या अंडरची सिस्टीम लावली असेल तर तुमची जी कॉन्ट्रॅक्ट डिमांड आहे त्याच्यापेक्षा तुम्ही एक्सीड करू शकत नाही. पण तुम्ही जर का बिहाइंड द मीटर पॉलिसी मध्ये गेलात तर बिहाइंड द मीटर मध्ये काय प्रकार होतो की तुम्ही जनरेट तुमच्या ट्रान्सफॉर्मर कॅपॅसिटीच्या 80% तुम्ही कॅपॅसिटीची सिस्टीम लावू शकता. पण त्यात प्रश्न असा येतो की तुम्हाला सुट्टीच्या दिवशी जो आता बँकिंग बेनिफिट मिळतो तो मिळणार नाही. त्यामुळे बिहाइंड द मीटर मध्ये तुम्ही जनरेट जास्त करू शकत पण ऍट द सेम टाइम बँकिंग बेनिफिट मिळणार नाही. बँकिंग बेनिफिट पाहिजे असेल तर नेट मीटर मध्ये ते अलाउड नाहीये.
नाही, नेट मीटरिंग मध्ये समजा अलाउड नाहीये, पण आमची बॅटरी बॅकअप ठेवला इंडिपेंडंट सगळा स्टँड अलोन तर
चालेल की, काहीच हरकत नाही. पण तुम्हाला सांगू
त्यात शंका आहे
का,
सर आणखी.
त्यात प्रॉब्लेम काय सांगतो आता, कॉस्ट ऑफ स्टोरेज म्हणून जो प्रकार आहे, आपण
हो, हो.
एखादं युनिट बॅटरीत स्टोअर केलं आणि परत वापरलं तर त्याला वी
हो.
कॉल इट कॉस्ट ऑफ स्टोरेज.
हो,
म्हणजे
हो.
बॅटरी
Sir, sorry for interruption. There are a few members in this group today who won't understand Marathi language.
राईट
अरे
राईट.
सॉरी.
So primarily, the cost of storage in the current scenario is to the tune of almost 8.5 to 9 rupees. So again, that makes the entire thing financially unviable.
आणखी एक प्रश्न आहे त्याच्यामध्ये. समजा आम्ही बसवली एक एक्सपेरिमेंटल बेसिस म्हणून मुलांना शिकवण्यासाठी किंवा असं काही, आणि आता सँक्शन लोड कॅपॅसिटी 350 किलोवॅट आहे,
राईट
आणि समजा आम्ही एक 50 किलोवॅटची बसवली सिस्टीम,
राईट.
मग आमचा ऍक्च्युअली यूज अंडर यूज होईल, मग ती सँक्शन कॅपॅसिटी कमी करून घ्यावं लागेल का? आणि कमी करून घेतली तर ज्या वेळेला सूर्यप्रकाश नाही त्यावेळेला मग काय करायचं? एक्स्ट्रा साठी फाईन भरावं लागेल का आम्हाला?
नाही. Whenever there is no grid, obviously you will be use the battery based system, and if you basically reduce the contract demand and if you exceed that contract demand, obviously you will be penalized.
I think Mehta sir, you can discuss mutually with Dr. Vinay Hasabnis. Let's take the next question. Next question, please. Next question.
Sir, good afternoon, everyone.
Yes.
I am BS Patil from TI. I have one question. Is there subsidy available now from the government for solar?
Yeah. Subsidy is available only for residential sector, not for the industry.
Yeah, okay. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Next question.
Sir, kindly share this PowerPoint presentation to everybody, sir.
Yeah, I already shared your presentation.
The group PowerPoint presentation, sir. What you have explained.
Yeah, we'll share your presentation. Don't worry. I will share.
Thank you, sir.
Next question. Next question. I think we have at 10:48 and we have some time for interactions. But if there are no questions, we can close the session. Last announcement for the questions. Okay,
Sir,
friends.
hello.
Yeah, please.
This is
Yeah.
Anil Chaitanya here.
Hello.
Go ahead.
I would like to share some information about subsidies on the solar. If you go directly for subsidies on the solar, as rightly sir said, if it is residential, it is available. But if you are in research area, any associated any other industry and using solar, then can we get subsidies for equipment implementations and skilling also. There is 100% subsidy available for skilling in solar area at rural level or at manufacturing level or at production level. So these informations are available. Anyone who needs such information, you can contact to Tech Forum or you can contact to me. I am a Tech Forum member. My name is Anil Chaitanya. And there are a couple of people, couple of requests coming to me along with project detail for subsidies related to solar.
Okay.
For example, one request has come from wine industry and they are having solar energy resourcing. So now we have claimed this subsidies under different schemes to get the funding for solar implementations. So such payouts are available. It's different from case to case. Okay. And Tech Forum platform is available for all of us to look for this area. There are a couple of members already there in our group are already approached to Tech Forum for getting subsidies on various area. So I'm over and out. This was I would like to share getting the opportunity of today's presentation. Thank you.
Sir, shall I mention something?
Yeah, please.
Hi, sir, BS Patil here again from TIFR. Actually, we are in the process of installing 150 kilowatt peak solar system. We are a government agency. We are under the Department of Atomic Energy. So we have understood that we don't get subsidy. Just now, this is Anil said it can be available, but is it available for government agencies? As you said, for organization, it is not.
Actually, I can help you in this.
Okay.
Let we go through detail,
Okay.
not the detail of your work area, but overview of your project. We will discuss one-to-one, because there are a couple of areas we need to be viewed and then look for subsidies under various sections.
Okay.
So probably.
Okay, Dr. B.S. Patil, you can contact Anil Chaitanya and resolve this mutually.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. Can we get the number, sir?
Yes. Can you write down? I
He will
will explain.
Yes, please.
No, you put it in the chat box.
Yes.
Last question. I think Mr. Hemant Bhange wanted to ask some question.
Please.
Please shoot out. Yeah. Hemantji, please shoot out. Unmute your mic.
या माझ्याकडे टेरेस अवेलेबल आहे. त्या टेरेस वरती जर कोणाला सोलर हे इम्प्लिमेंट करायचं असेल, इन्स्टॉल करायचं असेल, तर त्या टेरेस वरती करू शकतो. ती फॅसिलिटी मी प्रोव्हाइड करू शकतो. तर कोणाला जर इंटरेस्ट असेल सोलर पॉवर जनरेशन मध्ये आणि याच्यामध्ये, तर फॅसिलिटी अवेलेबल आहे. तर त्या संदर्भात काही कोणाची रिक्वायरमेंट असेल तर आय एम ओपन फॉर.
But what will I do with this by installing the solar plant?
काही जण
I'm able to sell it to someone.
काही जणांना एफपीला सेल करायचं असेल किंवा अशा पद्धतीनं ग्रीडला कनेक्ट करायचं असेल तर त्याला उपयोग होऊ शकतो.
That benefit you will get for your energy meter. Anyway, mutually you can interact with Mr. Dr. Vinay Hasabnis and find out. Friends, we have come to an end, almost an end. I hope there is no question. Okay, no question.